Rise and grind, it's that time. Morning sun, coffee chime. 3 small folks, 1 average bro. Tune in now, let's start the show. Tiny crew, big dreams, brewing thoughts, vivid schemes, sipping on that morning brew. Got that energy, how about you? Little bit of coffee, a little bit of fun. Kicking off the day, everybody come. Perk up your ears, hear the latest buzz. Grab your mug, join the morning fuss. Short in size, tall in spirit. Every topic, yeah, we near it. Laughter news.
So grab your Joe and let's go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome to a little bit talk where we take your Monday morning out of your Monday morning. Welcome. I'm POD, your host, coming alongside of my best friend, coming in at 4'9". Make some noise for it. Shortcut. Next is the father of the group. He keeps us in check and intervenes as needed. Here is DJ Pappy. What's up, gentlemen? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Man, I am so stoked today. We got a little bit of a different guest, and he kind of said another host with us this morning.
Yeah.
We've me and Shortcut both, we've sat in with him a little bit over the years and done other projects with him, and I'd say for the most part he and I got along, but he is a pain in the rear end, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, without further ado, make some noise for my very good friend Ken Beckner, also known as Benny
Barcardi.
Good morning,
Oh,
Benny.
Oh gosh!
It's
Thank
too
gosh you
stinking
wouldn't
early
say
to
that.
do it.
Other projects with him, and man,
POD.
I'm just glad you're working the same
Right. And then you had to go knock on the door, say, hey, let's have some coffee.
Jamie Christmas. You couldn't have got some throat
It's
spray
your
or something
pleasure.
before you came
I
on
am
the air.
here.
It's my pleasure.
Yes,
Couldn't you have
sir.
got some throat spray?
Well, this
Spray
Cup
or
of
cough
Joe,
drop before you came in?
there's a rumors going around about how this Cup of Joe was having rating difficulty. So he decided to have me come along. I mean, I heard rumors that the only people that was listening to you were the old ladies at the nursing home.
Well, somebody was listening, wasn't they?
Chime in on you and see your ugly
Explain
mug.
why they wasn't down in your room that week.
Right, stop you schmuck.
So,
Oh,
Jiminy Christmas, Jiminy Christmas.
Good morning. Good
Oh,
morning.
Benny
good
Barcardi.
morning, good morning.
So,
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you,
please.
Benny?
Living
Thanks
a
for coming
dream.
on our
How
show,
y'all?
Benny.
Get this week started.
Yes.
Right.
Right. So the other day I got your text and you were telling me how you wanted to jump in here and throw your 2 cents about the recent Snow White movie and
Yeah.
how leaving the CGI and little people out of it. I meant CGI and leaving us as the little people out of it. What's your 2 cents on it, my friend?
Well, let's do a little bit of history. Why don't we? It first
All right,
started
Benny.
out with our beloved, great little LP actor Peter Dinklage coming along saying that he was offended by the fact that dwarfs were in the movie, Snow White, and I kind of relate because growing up, the one time a year I really wasn't looking forward to was when NBC used to have Wizard of Oz on Sunday night,
Yeah.
around Easter. And of course, that meant the next day at school I was be calling him Munchkin and all that kind of stuff. But
Exactly, man.
so when he said that, that's really start, the ball rolling. They started off with Snow White and the Seven Diversities. It was on one little LP, and then this array of different people from different show or background. I won't go into it because I don't know who all the rest of the 6 people were. Be honest with you.
They look like French baristas.
Yeah, then pretty much. Then Rachel Ziegler kind of got into it, and she made a little bit of a controversial statement about something, and next thing I know, it was shelved. And then they came out with the what do you call it, CGI or the computer animated?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My thoughts is, because let's be honest, Peter Jackson started it with Lord of the Rings. He used normal sized people to play the dwarf Gimli, John Reeves Davies, I think his name was, and then the 4 hobbits was played by 4 normal sized individual, and he used camera angles and whatnot to make it all like they were miniature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of bums me out.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was a starving LP actor, I would be really ticked off.
Well, and me and you discussing in private and then behind the scenes earlier today with the other 2 guys, not even realize it in the world of wrestling, even, which is you and I's world, they've done it in the big leagues. There was legitimately a time when WWF, almost every show had a little person match. I don't know if WCW so much did, but I know that there was a time, when you almost had a little person match on it, and
Yeah,
it phased out. Now I realize the quality of the wrestling phased out as well compared to back then. But you would think there would still be an investment there where they could have invested in the training to become better and still tied us in. But it just seems to me in these last several years, they've just little by little started dwindling little people out of any of the big league type entertainment. It's
Little by little.
just something you don't see little by little. Well, in all sincerity, about the only place you see little people entertainment anymore is the reality shows.
exactly.
You got Little
And,
People Big World at
and your
one
local
time.
micro show somewhere. Yeah, I remember my first micro match was in the old WWF, 3 W's and 1 F, which was owned by and ran by Vince Senior.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I saw little people just like myself wrestling in the ring, and yeah, it was one Saturday morning, and that was back when Bruno Sammartino was the champion and super.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Him back those days, and yeah, usually like once every other week they'll have a micro match in that.
Yeah.
But then it kind of phased out. Time went on, and I think you were involved with Puppet for a time. This Psycho Puppet.
I was before Puppet, just a little bit before Puppet.
Yeah.
And then what happened, how me and Puppet came together was he had it was like a novelty show he called Sock'em. And he had that show going. It was a women's boxing match, a women's wrestling match, a wheelchair match with 2 guys in a wheelchair, and then he and we would either box or we pro wrestle. And but through that came the All Major Wrestling Federations.
Yeah. But he appeared a couple times on Impact. And that was like what, in the 2000s or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Like that.
Yeah, he and Theo both. That was shortly after he and I had split as business partners. Yes.
Yeah, and Vince McMahon brought them all and had them all mini Kane, mini Batista, all those guys.
That was me that set those up.
What?
That was me that set those up. Yeah.
Oh, it was you. When was that?
The early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Okay.
Yeah, that was okay. We was traveling together as business partners like 98 to about 2000, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after he and I had stopped being business partners, I was getting calls on a pretty standard frequent base whenever they'd want to tie in a little person to the program. They would contact me to get the little person.
Okay. But then, but after that, you guys had a spot with New Day. Then
No,
now there's
I
only
didn't have
one.
anything to do with that spot.
Huh?
The New Day spot, no, I didn't have nothing to do with that. My
Okay.
son was involved in that.
I thought you
But
were in it. You weren't?
I'm
No.
not real sure who was in charge of that, putting that one together.
Andrew Darcy.
Maybe a little bit of it, yeah, because I know
Yeah. But
then
the
on
whole
it.
point is just after that, nothing.
Yeah.
No LPs anywhere.
And that's just it. It makes you wonder. You can't help but wonder what was the cause. What was the cause of why all at once did little people get brushed to the side? And did in every aspect, did they stop looking at our level of entertainment? I mean, I don't know.
I think that
It really bothers me.
to be honest with you, I think there's a certain level of people that were offended by the whole situation. Maybe little LPs and maybe LP's family or whatever kind of got a little bit of once again offended by it, and they didn't. I mean,
The whole woke thing.
exactly.
Okay.
I mean, because are we allowed to say the M word here?
I don't mind it, but
Okay.
now there's
Happy we go with it.
some
Okay.
get offended, but
I mean, there was a time
I've called.
when I was old and decrepit, and I'm still old and decrepit now, but back when I was younger, midget it was okay to say. Now
Yeah.
it's taboo. I mean,
I've called myself a midget ever since I knew what a midget was. I thought it was cool. I mean, I never once, took it as a.
I never did. I mean, the whole definition of it was to me was a midget was a shrunken, normal sized person, and a dwarf is basically a little person that has short arms and legs, basically.
Right.
And now how it is, but now it's just like the only time you can say that word or hear people saying it is LPs like y'all and myself that don't have that offended. I ran into a couple other guys in the industry and they said, I don't care, I mean, about the midget word and stuff like that. And last time I got somebody that got mad at me about it was a family member of a little person. And I'm like, I'm
Well,
okay.
that's the question I always get is what do I call you? And I always say, Dennis. My name's Dennis.
Exactly. Hello. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a hey man, dude.
well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a short little break, and when we come back, I want to talk about whatever made you decide that this was the business for you, the pro wrestling circuit.
Good
We'll
luck
come
with
back
that.
more with Benny Barcardi.
We lost somebody. Oh, there you go.
There he is.
Uh-oh. There he is. Oh, you got to take your mute button off there, buddy.
Okay, we're playing a little randomizer here.
All right. There he is.
Hey,
It took me off stage, then it wouldn't let me add myself back on. So with that being
What were you
said,
doing that you had to mute yourself to do?
hey, it's none of your
That's a
business.
good question.
So now the pro wrestling business talk.
Yeah.
First, what year did you come in the business? Because I had heard a rumor that you were so old that you once walked Jesus to the ring.
That is so untrue. It's beyond comprehension. Now, I've been a lifelong wrestling fan, but to be honest with you, about maybe 7 years ago, my son-in-law was working here in the Indies, and I went to a show, and I got a lot of people who thought I was Hornswoggle. There you go. That stereotype. Even though Hornswoggle was no hair because I didn't have hair back then either. But anyway, I went there and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in there, watching my son-in-law wrestle and stuff like that. I became a heckler basically for all the heels, which that's what they want, you know. Um, and then I went ahead and asked a guy who was running a show down here in Toccoa and said, "Hey, is there any way I can be in the show?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So that's what started it. I did a little bit of ring announcing. Then I got my heel turn from ring announcing to heel manager. Then there was a show in Ognack that popped up, and that was when you and I talked about it, and he just asked a simple question, and he asked me, "Well, can you handle a simple match?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I can." Next thing you know,
Well, what I remember about that conversation when you and I were even talking about it earlier, before we come on the air, I remember at first you were really concerned because of your age and hey, I've been doing the managing for a couple years, but never really tried the wrestling side. And your answer first, I don't was no. I think it would be best if I just stay in the managerial role. And we hung up, and it was just a couple. It wasn't very long at all. At tops, a half hour. And you text me, "Hey, you still available to talk?" Yeah, and call me right back. He's like, "Hey, I gotta take a stab at this." I mean,
yeah,
and I thought that was really interesting. Because even when you started going to the training up there in northern Michigan and stuff, I thought that was really interesting that you were doing the best you could to keep up even with the young pups and doing really decent at it. I mean, all in all, So
well, I kind of pride myself. Tried to stay in shape. I mean, I work out at least an hour every other day. Hit the treadmill, hit the weights and stuff like that. Like you said, I try to keep up with the young folks and stuff. But basically, I'm in my 60s, yeah, but I like to live until I'm at least 80. So the best way
right,
to do that is to, is by taking care of yourself. And I'm pretty much of an advocate for that.
Good.
But I'm not going to do anything silly. I'm not going to have a fluorescent light tube smash them on my head or anything like that they have on those death matches and stuff like that. I'm
well,
not a flyer.
answer no to my next question.
Pretty much. But I try to stay within the framework that old Dusty Rose said, if you don't know how to do it, don't be doing what you don't know how to do. And that's I openly admit. I mean, you crazy self told me and this guy named Micro King to suplex cut in that show. I want you to do suplex. Do what?
No, but what I weighed like 100 at the time. I weighed like 165 pounds.
I don't know how to do stuff. He said, "Go out there and do a suplex."
Yeah.
But it wound up being, we just said, well, just punch the guy and kick him and stuff like that for keeping me awake all night with his really horrific snoring. But anyway.
Right.
In your time, because you've only been in the wrestling side of for a couple years, correct?
Yeah. About maybe 3 or 4.
would you say, how many promotions would you say you work for now? As a wrestler, not a manager.
As a wrestler, at least 5.
Oh,
Nice.
5 or 6. 2 in these 5. I mean, 5 in these 2 micro.
Okay.
The third micro show, I was just a ring announcer and referee for. So
Yeah.
I didn't go
Well, that's
into
that's where I met you.
which one?
The landmark.
Yeah. Well, I was
Yeah.
ring announcing there, but I fought in there. I've
Yeah.
been in matches in there. And but the vast majority of them of the shows in the indies, I've been wrestling normal sized people, or I've been involved with tag matches. The craziest one was a team of 4-on-4 guys in a cage match and
Yes,
with
sir.
elimination. And I was the second one eliminated on my team, which was surprising since I was green there, and well, I was green back then, and they wanted me to stay there. I guess because I was a LP, and that kind of is attraction. I was the only LP in that match.
oh,
Right on.
So, and
Now, Poppy, with you being the same or up there in about the same age category as Benny, first, do you have any questions you want to ask him? And second, had you ever thought at any point in your, as you were passing 50, for example, about getting into any sport or anything like such?
oh no. I mean, I realized once I was over the 50 mark, I physically was I started declining. There was no way I could get into a physical type of a position or wrestling or anything like that. I never even thought of it when I was younger. Um, I just I just chose another path, but I never was against it. I watched it several times, and I had new people that did it. And but now that I'm over 60, my body is paying for a lot of stuff. I was a volunteer fireman for 15 years, and EMT for 5, and so I physically was pushing my body all the time to the maximum, and I'm paying the price for that now. Uh, I got arthritis real bad, and I've had 2 back surgeries. I have rods. I got actually a broken rod in my back now, but but yeah, I never foresaw myself going back into anything physical. But I applaud people who can, and I applaud that you were able to make a great living in the wrestling field. And I'm I don't know what more to say, but other than that, I'm
I
happy for
commend
you.
you for your service in the fire department. That's a
Yes.
worthy
Oh, thank you,
profession.
man. I
I
loved every
kind of
second of it.
went through the beat up job too. I worked in a nursing home and back in
Oh man,
the 90s, and they didn't have the more lifts and stuff. So in order to get a resident in a wheelchair and a jerry chair, you have to physically pick them up.
sure,
And
man. That had to be a hell of a thing for you to do.
yeah, it was. I mean, and some of those people were, you're lucky if they can stand on one leg,
Exactly, exactly.
or if they weren't combative to be hitting you while you're trying to get,
Right, right.
But yeah, that took a little toll on my body.
I'm
Working
sure it
that,
did.
I think I was there for roughly 10 years as a CNA
Wow.
and
Yeah,
activities
my
director.
brother's a CNA. My brother does that right now. He's near 60 himself, and he's a tired man at the end of the day.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I applaud your service as well.
Well, thank you,
Hmm.
sir. And I've been blessed. I only had one surgery, back
Oh,
surgery.
really?
That was laminectomy due to spinal stenosis,
Yeah, I had that. Yeah.
and and it mostly because I've been working in the medical field and on my feet, walking on the floors, heart
Oh,
pain
yes,
and
cement
stuff like
floors are terrible.
yeah, and
And
kidney disease.
how many vertebrae did you have to get done in your laminectomy?
3, the L2 to L5.
Oh man.
5
Yeah,
on mine. I had the T11, T12, L1, L2, L3.
yeah, but
So yeah.
I'm feel great now. I mean, that
Oh,
was
good, good.
that was back in 2021, and now I decided to go back in the ring.
Oh man.
There's just a little injury. I'm back in the game.
Right. That must be well, you must be really sore at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at your age, man, I'm not even trying to be funny.
What?
I've been out of the game for 5 years, okay? And I sit here and I think a lot of times when I'm talking to you, brother, man, I've been out of the game 5 years. I'm 52 now, so I wrapped it up, and it's actually been longer than that. It's more like 7 years now that I'm thinking about it. And so you figure I ended around 47.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yeah.
remember if I did 2 days in a row, it'd take me 3 days to recover, you know? And I'm thinking you're in your early 60s, and
Yeah.
I
And
can't
here's
even
the
imagine,
thing.
brother.
Here's the thing. In the indie matches, maybe 10, 15 minutes in the ring.
Yeah.
In the micro, it's longer. It's like 20 minutes to 20 minutes to a half hour.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think I just got off tour, and I think the matches that I have with this one gentleman, I think we average around between 20 and 25 minutes. And the indies, it's like, if it wasn't expecting me to be in that ring that long, so I kind of
Right.
got,
Yeah.
But advantage is the ring is half padding, so you get to run around and not not like the hardcore or anything like that.
All right.
Well, you bumped shoulders like with people with like Jake the Snake Roberts and stuff like that. Who was probably your most I guess memorable favorite person that you've met working?
Oh, Jake's the Snake. I mean, yeah, you're talking about the back in 2000, and it was right before COVID, 2020. I was in the Lance Archer Vinaigrette, and it had Jake the Snake. I think that had to be one of the most memorable, because I wound up on TV nationwide.
Yeah.
Oh,
TV.
cool.
Yeah, I'll send you that YouTube video of it. For all the guys that probably right off the top of my head was when I was down in Thomason, Georgia. I think it was. I met Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh.
He grabbed the fork and put me in a headlock and put a fork on my forehead and took a picture. So, I met Shaggy. Well, we all met Shaggy from ICP.
Yes.
And then
Right.
and I met I run into Tommy Wildfire Rich almost on a continuous basis because he's still working.
Yeah.
Guys like and the Barbarian as well. He's in his 60s, and so
Wow.
is Tommy Wildfire Rich. So I kind of look at them as
Tonga, same thing.
yeah. And then you got Chick Donovan, who's wrestling in his 70s, and Action Mike Jackson's as well as he's pushing 80, and he's still in the ring. It's,
80 years old.
It's in my 60s, so hey, I got at least 20 years left. Who knows?
Yeah.
80 years old and he's in the ring.
Action Mike Jackson, I think he is. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he can still do it. And he's not just I think he was like 78 when I saw him in a match down in South Georgia. He was wrestling some guys half his age, and he was still doing flips, bumps, getting off
Holy cow.
body slam and everything. And he comes out of the ring and you don't even know that he's putting in any work. I mean, it's amazing how some of these guys
Yeah.
been so conditioned and stuff. Chick Donovan is phenomenal. I mean, he's in his 70s and he looks like he still looks like a younger Arnold Schwarzenegger as far as
kidding.
and everything. Yeah, the guy still got it. And I'm like, I hope I look half that good when I turn 70. I mean, good grief. But chances are I look like POD. What can I say?
Let's take another quick little commercial break. When we come back, talking top shelf.
All right.
right.
Let's see. Well, I got to find the right button. You know what I mean? I'm not
Find the
perfect
button.
either.
Find the button. We lost POD again.
There he
There
is.
he is.
Dang it.
Hey!
How come you're not sharing any food with us, dude?
I know, right?
Hey,
What are you eating, man?
morning
Come back
pizza.
to chewing.
Morning
Cold
pizza.
Yeah, I
huh?
know. No, that's the breakfast of choice today. So,
You chew
top
like a
shelf
camel.
topic
You
of the
know?
day.
Got cow chewing his
Hey,
cud.
man. Oh, listen, I've been being nice to you so far. You know, been trying to be nice to you so far, and
What
you're
day
just
is
being
it?
mean to
What day
me.
it is? You're
Uh,
smoking a cigarette. You probably got the Lucky Strikes Camel or with a camels.
yeah,
All right, so top shelf. Since we're talking pro wrestling,
all
I
right.
thought
Yes, sir.
top shelf today. Let's go first round. Who was your most hated wrestler growing up or your whole life? The guy that tastes in your mouth, and why? Happy to start with you.
I don't think it was a wrestler, but it was a manager, Jimmy Hart. I just couldn't stand him. I just thought he was a loudmouth, and I just couldn't stand him.
They call
I
him
just
Mouth
wanted
of
to
the
scream.
South. That's why.
Yeah, right,
And,
exactly. That's
and
the
the
one that
interesting
stands out
part
in
of
my
your
mind.
perspective, and the interesting part of your perspective is you were always the fan side because
Exactly.
in real life, Hart
Mm.
is a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Was he?
Really nice guy. Yeah, he really
Oh, that's
is.
awesome. He
There's
played a good role then.
Always been
He's
super good to me.
there's a picture of him a couple years back. He was helping set up for the show. They had
Yeah,
Oh,
I've heard
really?
that.
the truck
That's
bringing
what
stuff out. So
Wow.
that's
So,
he paid.
Bacardi, who's your most disliked wrestler and why?
Oh, mine? $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. That part
Why?
was, man, when
Everybody's
he
got a
that
price.
basketball scene, I just wanted to reach through the screen and choke him out, man. When he told that little kid that if he could bounce the basketball so many times, he'd give him money, and he'd knock the basketball. Oh man!
Oh, I
But
love
I
it.
but not when I got older and got into the whole aspect of it. He's a genius. He is. He really is a genius.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was yeah. But
Bacardi? Who-
I had a couple. One was the genius, played by Lanny Pavo. First
Poffo.
he came
Yes.
out,
the genius.
First he came out as a babyface, and he had these frisbees and threw it out there. I said, "What the heck?" And then he went ahead and start
That's so
reciting his
weird.
poetry. I'm like, "Get off out of the ring! You suck."
So,
But anyway, the
it's weird
second
that
one
you
had
should.
good.
That's weird. I got to tie that into my most hated. 'Cause my most hated wrestler was the Junkyard Dog. And
Oh
mine was,
yeah.
now I'm going to explain. Now, look, boy, everybody's like, what? You know, I
He's
know he
so
was a baby
racist.
face. Here comes the hate mail.
Yeah, the hate mail you gonna get now.
POD. Yeah.
I mean, you chose
Here's why.
everybody else have heels. You chose a baby face, as you know.
Now I'm going to explain though. So when I was a kid, Junkyard Dog was the guy I wanted to meet the most. And WWF, then WWF, came to Marion. And I don't remember, 8, 9 years old. And the fire uh, bringing them in, one of the firefighters was a friend of the family. and he asked me, he said, "Would you be interested in selling frisbees for Leaping Lanny Poffo?" Weird that this tied in, and I said, "Yeah, I mean that'd be great." So I went and I helped Leaping Lanny Poffo sell his frisbees, and all I wanted in return was to meet Junkyard Dog. And so it came time to go meet Junkyard Dog, and I went back there and been having a bad day or something because he was real super hateful to me and threatened to break my camera and screamed at me. And oh, he was just horrible. And, when you're a young kid, it's just like, I just want to go home, And, but that was
Aw.
funny was he fought Outlaw Ron Bass. I don't know if any of you remember Outlaw Ron Bass or not, but
No, I
Outlaw
don't.
Ron Bass was like the super bad guy. And
Yeah.
I was getting ready to leave. I was just done for the day. My heart was broken, and I didn't get to meet Junkyard Dog the way I wanted to meet him. And well, in the aspect I thought I'd meet him, I should say. And I was so mad. And Outlaw Ron Bass saw me and hey, shakes my hand and sits there and chats with me for a few minutes and takes a couple pictures with me and gives me a shirt. And man, it was just like changed it all. And the bad
There
guy
you
was the good
go.
guy. Yeah.
There
So
you go.
that was but yeah, my big most hated wrestler was Junkyard Dog.
Junkyard Dog.
All right,
That's
let's go
cool.
with who was your.
Bad day.
Yeah, I guess. Pappy, we'll start with you. Then let's reverse it. Who's the
All right.
wrestler that made the biggest impression on?
His name was Ivan Putski, Polish Power.
Oh, you stole my answer.
I'm sorry. I
It's
loved
okay.
him. I loved Ivan Putski.
I
But tell
love
us
him
what it was
too.
about him.
He
Since
Sorry.
both of you are going to add that in there.
he had an interesting career when he first came out back in the WWF. He was kind of this heavy, overweight guy. He weighed close to 300 pounds. And he was kind of slow. He one time came into the ring with a bunch of toys. He started playing with them, sitting in the corner, running this little car around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then he disappeared for a while. I think he went throughout the whole territories. And when he came back, he lost something like 45 pounds and he was really muscular. But
Yeah.
matter of fact, I think I'm trying to, since I'm still in the ring, I'm trying to art the master of his finisher, the Polish hammer, which is
All
basically
right.
a double axle.
Right.
But instead of going like this, he goes like that. And it's called the Polish power.
Right.
That was cool.
He was
I
cool.
had to
He was
pick a
awesome.
different one. I'm going to say this tie between Macho Man, Randy Savage, and
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
Mostly, I like Macho Man for the gimmick, and I like Ricky Steamboat because he was a great wrestler.
Another one I liked was Chief J Strongbow.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
I liked him too.
You
That
stole
was
mine with Macho Man. As soon as I was like, "Yeah, I got Macho Man," I'm gonna say that, and then y'all stole that one from. So
yeah.
Macho Man, Randy Savage, and I never got to see him wrestle, but Bobby the Brain Heenan. I watch shows sometimes to see that when they were in Madison Square Gardens, the hotel scene where he's walking through stealing everything, trying to show everything in his pocket. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. I mean, he was such a funny,
So I'm having technical difficulties, gentlemen.
I know you're. That
Nah,
was
you're
cool.
still ugly. That's not
He's li-
technical.
That was a ventriloquist.
Yeah.
He was talking, but his lips were the. We're going to have some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Bobby was my favorite manager.
You got me.
Oh God.
He did that earlier when we were talking to each other. He froze up like that. That was just like, is he really froze? And he starts moving again. And I'm like, that was funny.
My favorite wrestlers that probably made the biggest impact on me was not until after I became a pro wrestler, but was probably the Honky Tonk Man,
Oh.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan,
Yeah.
and the Iron Sheik.
Oh, the
All
Iron
three
Sheik.
of those
Yes.
gentlemen, but all three of those, but more of a reasons than character. They all three were always so helpful backstage. They always could give you really good advice. And if you messed up, they didn't sugarcoat it. They told you like you needed to hear it, you know? Um,
Okay.
because obviously when you're in there and you're doing moves, you're messing with people's lives. So uh I have the highest respect for all three of them because if you also couldn't think of something to add and they saw you were stuck back there and you were putting the match together, they give ideas. And so all
Oh,
three of them and were just great men behind the scenes.
oh, cool.
Bam
Yeah.
Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam
Bam Bam
Bigelow.
Bigelow. Only got the pleasure of meeting him once, and that was for just a brief moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I heard he was. I would heard he was even more popular in Japan. Like when he went to
I've
Japan,
heard that too.
Mm-hmm.
he was like
I've
he was
heard that too.
basically Hulk Hogan in Japan.
Yeah,
Uh,
they like big boys in Japan.
when before we get off topic of Bam Bam Bigelow and go around the table one more time, uh, a good friend of mine, Jason Maples, he runs Heroes and Legends Wrestling. If any of you ever get the chance, I wish I'd had a banner made before I said that. Uh, Heroes and Legends Wrestling. They run out of the Pigeon Forge area. Couple times shows, great big shows on them. Bring the legends of yesteryear in,
Yeah, I
Okay.
seen
and
flyers.
he did a lot of look-alike stuff back in the day of Bigelow, and because he looked a
Mhm.
lot like him. I mean, he really did.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm sure he'd appreciate me talking about him on here for just a second. But yeah,
Sure.
he brought Bam Bam Bigelow to a couple times for some autograph signing at Christmas time, if I remember right. That's how I got to meet him was one time on one of those. Uh, so let's go around the table with some honorable mention wrestlers that over the years just they were somebody you never forgot because of who they were.
Oh, geez.
Bret
Well,
the Hitman Hart, where's he at?
Man, the
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Hawk and Animal. That was the coolest gimmick tag team
Road
ever.
Warriors.
Yeah, the
Road
Road
Warriors.
Warriors.
Yeah.
They were amazing. That was, I mean, the shoulder pads to come in there just looking crazy. I mean, they were scary, but they were awesome. They were just like,
Were they the
yeah,
first one that used face paint? Because that's one thing that kind of. Because I was like you,
Maybe.
they're big dudes, but the way they looked, they had like because back them days it was punk rock was pretty popular, so they had the hairstyle that kind of fit that image. But then they had the face paint, and that kind of like wow, And
Now, now,
you
Benny,
can't
let me
forget them
ask you:
after you see
Did
them.
they? Now, not being funny here, but let's tie that in a little bit because the Road Warriors been around a minute now. Were they out before Kiss, the hard rock group?
no,
It
Kiss was
seemed
out
like
in the
the whole
'70s.
face paint thing came in right around in every genre of
It might
entertainment
have
around the same time.
it might have been in the Indies during that time, but I think Kiss was popular when I was in high school.
yeah,
Well,
me
That
too.
was back in the
they've been
70s.
doing
So.
It was
they've been
like
wearing makeup
70s.
since the 70s.
And
Yeah.
we had electricity, let me tell you.
Man, I
And we just
realized
got
Gene
into
Simmons was
it.
that old.
Used to find a tree back in the day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, but yeah, they appeared in the old Georgia Championship Wrestling, I think, when it was on TBS. That was
Okay.
when you first saw him. I want to get back a little bit to what Pappy said. Chief J Strombo had one of the meanest chops you can ever see on TV.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
agree.
you
Yeah.
you you could have felt him at home when he gets played it.
Right.
Um,
Got to give an honorable mention to the Hulk Hogan.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
hell
really,
yeah.
with pros, a
It
lot of
wouldn't
people
be a
make fun of
WrestleMania if
him.
it been for Hulk Hogan.
Well, a lot of people in this day and age make fun of Hulk Hogan, and I think more than any reason is because a lot of people feel he should have hung it up several years ago. And
Yeah.
he drug it out. He drug it out probably 10 years longer than he should have.
Mm-hmm.
McCarty could not have said it better. Would pro wrestling be what it is today without Hulk Hogan?
No, I
No.
don't think so.
You know, you look
Uh,
at, for instance, NBA basketball. Who made basketball what it is today? Your Larry Bird, Michael Jordan,
right.
Magic Johnson.
Okay.
You know, you got the superheroes that made each sport what it is. You know,
I don't
and
know who
And
yeah,
coined.
Hulk Hogan.
and
I don't know who coined the. Go ahead.
for WrestleMania 1, the perfect heel that he faced was Roddy Piper. That
Yeah,
he
Oh,
had,
right.
he was, that feud right there in itself. And then they brought in Mr. T, which tied in with the wrestling rock
yeah.
gimmick going on,
Yeah.
and that was just the perfect setup. I don't know how you feel about him or not, but you gotta give Vince McMahon his due because
You do.
he's the one that thought about it. He's the one that developed WrestleMania, and along came that was every single promotion started doing pay-per-views pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know, before we get even off of the Vince McMahon thing, for all the bad you hear about him, you know,
mhm,
even myself has got a few bad stories there.
mhm,
But really, for everything, like, yeah, I felt like would get down the pipeline, I'd get scolded that I would have my part in sending
mhm,
midgets out to do spots on the WWE. When it would get down the pipeline, I get scolded. I still felt like nothing that I got scolded for was in the wrong. Like, in other words, it wasn't just like he was looking for a reason to be a jerk, you know.
mhm,
Everything I ever got scolded for, I well deserved, and it bettered me, you
mhm,
know, in the pro wrestling business. It was my in charge of me in any. I can't think of really too many federations for that matter that I ever felt like if I got punished for something or they were a jerk to me about something that it wasn't deserved. Like I needed to learn that, you know.
mhm.
So yeah.
Okay. What, Vince
So even
told
Vince
you?
McMahon. Oh yeah, I well, not directly,
Oh,
well, never directly, but like when we would send little guys out, and an incident I can think of right off the top of my head was one of the little guys went out to play a miniature character, and I don't know how much of this I'm allowed to divulge and how much I'm not, so I'm gonna be very careful with my wording. But the character that was played, they made the outfit for him and everything, and after he was done, he had assumed the outfit belonged to him and
oh,
the outfit and took it home. And a couple hours later, I was getting phone calls saying I was in big trouble, and it
Oh,
had come down all the way from the top that I was in trouble. So
okay.
yeah, maybe
Oh,
never
so it
directly,
wasn't
but
anything you did. It was just somebody else did it, and
yeah, but just when
over an
we,
outfit. Wow.
but the
well,
same thing like when we were in the micro federation, um, I get scolded for things even out there. I was an employee, not the owner, and get scolded and everything. I feel like in entertainment period, you get that I've ever had taught to me that was a lesson was
hmm.
deserved, made me a better entertainer.
Yeah, that's the way criticism should be. Criticism to me it should motivate rather than hinder. What did you say?
I thought you said prison. I think
I
that's
thought you
what
said prison too.
that's the
No,
way prison should be.
criticism. When I was in prison, I was in 10 to 20
I
for
thought
that
you
armed
said prison
robbery.
too.
That's how prison should be.
See,
Yeah,
I told you needed a cough drop.
my partner in
What
the
did
robbery
he
threw me
mean?
in the window of the armored car. I pull out
Benny,
my
what were you trying to say?
44 Magnum. What
What were you trying to say? What was
Before
the
you
word
come on,
about prison?
criticism
Criticism. Oh, okay.
should be used to motivate you rather than
Okay.
keep you down.
hey, next time you come on the show, we want you to take 3 shots of chloroseptic before you come on. Okay.
And
Yeah.
a week before, you gotta take some Metamucil.
Yeah.
Yo, Rob,
As
I
opposed
got
to
another honorable mention. Another honorable mention. You all will love this one. The Bushwhackers.
Yes.
oh yes.
It's the bushwhackers,
One of them was,
aka the sheep
um,
herders. They
I'm
Yeah.
still working.
I
I
know
remember the Iron Sheik.
Darn Sheik.
the
Yeah.
Iron Sheik. Yeah, I love that guy. I could tell you so many stories about the Iron Sheik. Sheiky baby.
Sheepy
Yeah.
baby.
If you were friends with him, he was one of the most fun people to be around.
Was he?
Um, yeah, I actually met him through my friend that you guys know, Ace. Ace became friends with him first, and Ace and him became really, really close. And by the time I had gotten to meet him, him and Ace were decent friends. And I had always heard that if you wasn't in close to the Iron Sheik, you wasn't allowed to be near his hotel room. All these, horror stories.
Wow.
And so I was finally on a show with him, and I was very gingerly walking around him, and everything I was doing. And Ace just brings me up to him and introduces me to him, and like it's his best friend. And he gives Ace a big hug, and from that moment on, he told me if I was a friend of Ace's, I was a friend of his. And he always treated me like a friend too. And
Uh-huh.
I have a story of where he came on to my wife, and it was so comical because if she's watching this episode, my ex-wife now, but we are still friends. And he came, and it was the funniest thing. He began flirting with her, and he finally asked me why she wasn't being, reciprocal, so to say.
Uh-huh.
And I told him, I said, well, and I wouldn't come right out and tell him. He said, oh my goodness, this is your girlfriend, isn't it? Oh my goodness, this is your girlfriend, isn't it? And I said, no. Well, then what's her problem? Why is she me? Why is she being so mean to me? And then he finally gets it, and he's like, this is your wife, isn't it? I'm like, yeah. And then of course, then he pats me on the back. He pats me on the back, and he says, I was just kidding. I was just kidding with you. It's all a big joke, POD. Yeah. Like, what am I going to do the Iron Sheik anyway, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Gosh, that guy, his strength was just so incredible.
Was it?
Yeah.
So incredible. Oh, yeah. He had those, I don't even remember what he
Yeah,
called
those
them,
little
but the
things that
batons.
those big
And
yeah.
They were
How
like
heavy were those?
what
80
was
pounds a piece.
80
Yeah,
pounds a piece?
80 pounds a piece, from what I heard.
Did he
yeah,
Wow.
did
the
it?
thing was, it was about how you got him to swing. It
Mhm.
basically was like an 80-pound ball at the end of a steel shaft,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and he'd pick him up over top of his head one at a time, just swing him back and forth over his head. And he'd challenge him. Man, I'd see some big guys get up there. Nobody could even come close.
Yeah.
Could even
Wow.
come close.
But yeah, I heard they were 80 pounds a piece. Yeah, he had incredible strength. Not
Yeah.
much body fat on him too.
Yeah.
Until he died practically. But
Yeah.
no, but the guy that used to probably strike fear in me was Bruiser Brody. I mean, he was
I don't know
hardcore,
him.
and he used to. Speaking of Japan, he was revered, but he was also feared because once he started swinging that chain around, people ran for cover and
Not
stuff like
bad.
that. And
Another great honorable mention that I must mention in my days is Viscera. Um, when I very first started traveling where I would call the big leagues,
mm-hmm,
I would go that had a lot of the guys that were currently on WWE, but were allowed to do indie shows.
mm-hmm,
And so there was this one particular promoter, Pizza Joe, and he would bring in all the name talent off TV on their days off and
mm-hmm.
run independent shows.
Uh,
And Ace, my friend I was just speaking of, would get booked to fight Viscera. I was Ace's manager, POD, and so Viscera and I would have a lot of little antics in the ring together too. But that man was so big and scary. Man, it's just like, goodness sakes, you put in those white contacts and your gold teeth and your big black leather coat, and man, I can act as tough as I want at 4 foot tall. You're just that much scary.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
Who scared another wrestler that scared the crap out of me was Stan Hansen. That was the guy that the tobacco chewing. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was a scary dude.
One of the meanest looking clothesline you can see. He can probably knock somebody's head off.
He's the guy that if I met him at a bar, I'd be scared. I'd be like, I'd be scared.
Don't do anything.
I'll tell you. We're out here.
Like, I want to know who his girlfriend is, so I won't talk to her.
Well, let's take a final break. When we come back, we'll bid Benny Barcardi farewell and get some Pappy life lessons.
Oh.
We're back.
We are back. All right. So first, man, we want to take a minute and thank our guest, Benny Barcardi, joining us today.
Benny Barcardi.
Come back anytime you want, brother. We'd love to see you again, and
next time it's gonna cost you some money.
It's like stealing ring announcers microphones.
I want you to be nicer to me next time you come back, okay?
I said, stop stealing ring announcers microphones. I don't appreciate that.
All right. So, with that being said,
if you don't appreciate it, hold on to it better. I steal microphones.
All right. So, Pappy, we're going to give you the spotlight.
Or what?
What?
Okay.
Yeah, we're just taking everybody off stage and let Pappy wrap up the show. Benny?
Okay.
See us soon.
Thank you, Benny. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for following us on another wonderful podcast of ours. I want to thank Benny for coming on and sharing his story with us and his life. And I'm speaking of life. You never know what's going to happen in your life, and you never know what avenues you're going to take. And Benny chose a great life in the wrestling field, and I applaud him, and I applaud all his accolades and his tenacity. And I just wish for everybody to have the will, the desire, and the push to succeed like that. And I want you all to take that home with you today. It's like, what do I want to do in life? How do I want to get there? And how do I want to beat the odds? And just start off with the first goal, the first obstacle, and get past that and go on to the next one, and the next one. And you too can be a champion in the ring. And that is my life lesson for today. Take care, and we'll see you next time. This is Pappy signing.
This has been a Michael Brothers United Productions.